What's up, guys? It's Dr. Murphy, Murphy Medical Associates, and our team at coronatestct.com. We're going to talk today about The Happening. That's right, The Happening. I don't know if you guys have ever watched The Happening, but it's real. I'll tell you more today on Murphy's Medical Minute. Stay tuned. All right, guys, let's talk today about The Happening. I don't know, I'm going to be maybe a little spoiler of those who haven't watched The Happening, but it basically goes on to say that trees kill us. Yes, the posit of the movie is that trees are killing humans because there's too many humans. I know that a lot of conspiracy theorists are even saying this about novel coronavirus. Well, guess what? In every story, there's a ring of truth. There's a little real thread, a real kernel here of truth. So as we approach April showers, bring May flowers, we have to really address something that happens every year in our medical practice. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but last year at this time, March 30th, 2020, we were talking about the same thing. How are we going to know whether it's allergies or whether it's COVID? Well, the answer is the same as it was before. You test. You test. Well, how do we know if it's rhinovirus versus SARS-CoV-2? You test. How do we know whether it's the flu or COVID? We test. How do we know whether it's allergic rhinitis or COVID? We test. And that's just plain and simple. We've been testing forever. One of the things that's amazing about this is insurance companies continue to refuse to pay for those tests. So a shout out to the federal government right now. It's time for you to step in. Quit screwing around. Allergy season is coming. There are going to be a lot more people with symptoms. And we need to test, treat, isolate, and trace. And if you guys are not going to step up and enforce the laws that you've put in place, then you got to find another way to test. Otherwise, the United States is going to get hit by wave number 4. That's right, wave number 4. I'm here today to talk about pollen and the best treatment for allergic rhinitis. That's right. Pollen as a poison today, March 30th, 2021. Who is this lovely live stream for today on Murphy's Medical Minute? Everyone. Everyone, everyone, everyone. As of today on the pollen.com website, that's right, pollen.com website, we find that 38% of the country is in a medium to high pollen count today. A medium to high pollen count today. We are entering spring. It is crystal clear. We have to have a proper strategy to protect us from all microscopic triggers for inflammation. Pollen is one of those. And it does a really funky thing where it induces inflammation, but it also reduces the inflammation needed to fight infections, needed to fight against respiratory viruses. Ha! Whoa! Wait a second. So pollen's not just going to make my nose run, but it's also going to make me more likely to get COVID? That may be true. We know right now, and we have some good evidence behind pollen increasing susceptibility to other respiratory pathogens like rhinovirus. How do we know? We test. We test. We test using a gold standard respiratory pathogen panel, which includes things like rhinovirus. And that's the key here. Well, this poison to some is a nuisance to just about everyone. I can tell you right now, the tree pollen as it starts to come through right now, through the spring season in the Northeast, is already in full blast in North and South Carolina. It is in full blast in Virginia and West Virginia. Tree pollen gets on your cars. It's a nuisance. You have to wash your car. Yes, I'm sorry. But for the people that are allergy sufferers, it's more than just a nuisance to wash their car. They need to wash their nose. That's right. And unfortunately, we need to wash our brains. And that is very, very true here as we worry about pollen causing all sorts of problems like the happening. All right, so to not blow up the spot for everyone, in the happening, what happens is that plants secrete neurotoxins very similar to the theory behind the red tide and the sea algae that knock out fish, that knock out sea life. Plants are culling the herd, maybe. As we approach this fourth wave, we have to really consider that pollen counts can be playing a role here. So what do? Whoa, I know what most allergy sufferers do. They shut the windows and they stay inside. Except now, they shut the windows, they stay inside, and they spread COVID. And they spread COVID. That's right. That's right. When you have to quarantine someone, you do shut their room, but you open the windows in the entire house. And guess what? Now everyone in the house thinks they have COVID. Why? Allergies and pollen. So there's some trade-offs that we're going to have to deal with here with treating allergies, treating allergic rhinitis during the time of COVID. And lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about inflammation. What goes on might not go off. And we need to make it just right here. And so some of the big problems we have that we see with things like novel coronavirus, especially the UK, the B.1.127 variant, seems to be that they can turn off T-cell inflammation very similar to pollen. That's right. You're going to be mind blown here, but pollen can create a similar reduction in HLA expression, and we can have a T-cell shift predisposing us to more infection. So we got to get it just right. Well, for all of you in El Paso, Abilene, Santa Fe, Roswell, or Albuquerque, New Mexico, you're having the worst day ever with pollen. If you're in Duluth, Minnesota, or Bemidji, or Williston, North Dakota, or International Falls, Minnesota, or if you're in Jamestown, North Dakota, this is your best day ever. You're having a great day without pollen. Let's get to it. Here's the problem. Who really suffers here with pollen? Who suffers here? Yeah, well, at least 1 in 4 people have some sort of allergic rhinitis or pollen intolerance syndrome. More important than that, we've heard of seasonal affective disorder, which is really a wintertime phenomenon, also linked to low sun and low vitamin D levels. We also have a summertime seasonal affective disorder, which has been linked to pollen. That's right. We see that depression and suicidal behavior increase with pollen counts, increase with poorly treated allergic rhinitis. What? Yes, the trees are secreting a chemical that cause us to kill ourselves. The trees are secreting a chemical that cause us to kill ourselves. Wait a second, isn't that the... That's the happening. That's the happening. The trees secrete chemicals that cause us to kill ourselves. In this case, in reality, it's true. Pollen counts increase the bipolar disease exacerbations. Allergic rhinitis and pollen increase risk of suicidal behavior. Allergic rhinitis early in your life as a child has been linked to depression risk as an adult. This is nothing new. We've known about this allergic toxemia since the 30s, where it's been effectively reported because we've been able to collect and count pollen. Pollen counts increase the risk of major depressive disorder. Pollen counts increase suicidal risk. And the data suggests that mental illness worsens during allergy season. Great. As if lockdowns aren't going to lead to suicide or depression, which I'm still trying to tie all of that data together, but we do know that telepsychiatry visits are through the roof now. Let's just add some pollen. What's going on? Well, we think that CNS, right, your central nervous system, is getting infiltrated with cytokines. That's right. Dysregulated inflammation is at the heart of all human suffering, even in the brain. So, why do we mention this during a time of COVID? Why am I really concerned about the spring allergy season? And trust me, we rode through last allergy season with COVID. We rode through last allergy season with COVID. It was the beginning of our pandemic here in the Northeast in the United States and in New York City, Connecticut, and New Jersey, where coronatestct.com is. We saw real confounding factors. And that's why we tested using our BioFire platforms. Is it rhinitis? Is it allergic rhinitis? Is it rhinovirus? Or is it COVID-19? The only way to know is to test. Here enters a new study, which is, in my opinion, a great first step in trying to understand, does pollen predispose us to COVID? No, no, it's not that pollen's walking around carrying COVID on it. No. We have science that shows that pollen affects our T cell response. Pollen affects our T cell response, leading to a dysregulated inflammation, leading to increased asthma exacerbations, leading to allergic rhinitis. Well, that T cell modulation that happens with pollen, we now know also is happening in a similar way with the UK variant. What? Yes. The T cell modulation, the T cell response from a virus is being affected. The T cell response is being affected by pollen. Pollen is leading to a predisposition, at least in the case of rhinovirus, a weakening, so to speak, of your immune system. A weakening of your immune system. So this, in the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States, is a preliminary attempt to review pollen counts during March of 2020 and identifying if high pollen counts led to higher infectivity with COVID. Did it lead to increased infectivity with COVID? And this study also controlled for lockdown versus partial versus no lockdowns. And it also controlled for, in a retrospective way, it controlled for population density. Okay. Caveat emptor, Mark Twain. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. The limitations of the study is that it's a retrospective study. The biological plausibility of this happening, I will tell you, is high. So as we approach allergy season in the US, many zones high in pollen, we need to be attacking pollen, we need to be attacking inflammation, and we need to be attacking allergic rhinitis as if our lives depend on it. Okay, all right, time out. Dr. Murphy, board-certified internist and obesity medicine specialist, lover of all mankind, treater of primary care, is telling you that allergic rhinitis and pollen are just as threatening as Krispy Kreme. That's right, it's just as dangerous as Krispy Kreme. Here we go again. Disrespecting donut rights, stamping out freedom every day. Freedom-loving Dr. Murphy and Murphy's medical associates are telling you that we have to treat allergic rhinitis. Why? Well, you know, every runny nose is not just COVID, and in fact, many of them are allergic rhinitis, and the only way to know the difference is to test. So we get a test. If you have symptoms, you need an RPP, that's a respiratory pathogen panel. If you have symptoms, you need an RPP, a respiratory pathogen panel. Yet another thing that insurance companies don't want to pay for. Listen, they're having record profits, and for them not to pay for these sort of things, that's really, it's theft. It's employers' theft, right? Because employers pay for the premiums. And it's employee theft because the employees pay for premiums and they pay for copays and deductibles. But guess what? Insurance makes their profit by stealing from employers. Sorry, insurance makes their profits not by stealing, by legally taking money away from employers and employees that is intended to pay for healthcare and paying their executives. Ta-da! That's the insurance-based game. So, regardless of that, I'm going to give you the medical advice, which is if you have symptoms of allergic rhinitis, get a test. Test, treat, isolate, trace. Get a test. The best test is an RPP. That way you can know whether it's COVID, rhinovirus, or allergic rhinitis. Once we found out that you don't have any virus in you, you probably have allergic rhinitis, especially during allergy seasons. The standard of care here, the singular standard of care, and the best treatment is nasal steroids, nasal corticosteroids, like fluticasone, twice a day in the nose. Let me tell you, you don't go squirt, squirt with it. The ENT doctors like you to tip your head forward. I like you to be in a seat so that we don't fall backwards. And you squirt in. Squirt, squirt. Wait 30 seconds. Why wait 30 seconds, Dr. Murphy? Do you paint wet walls? No. You let the paint dry. So we're going to let the paint dry. We're going to spray right side, left side. Wait 30 seconds. Let it absorb. And then repeat. Spray it again. All right, let it dry. And then bring your head back down to normal. Congratulations. Do that twice a day. Do that twice a day. That's really the standard of care for allergic rhinitis. We do that before we start throwing Zyrtec, Allegra, or Claritin at you. And let me tell you a little secret. Not all antihistamines work for all allergic rhinitis. In my clinical experience, Claritin tends to work better for trees. Is there a randomized double-blind? No, in my clinical experience. It is also my clinical experience that not all antihistamines work for all people. And so you have to play around with it to find which one works best for you. But nasal steroids are the singular standard of care. They're the best treatment. The best treatment for allergic rhinitis, nasal steroids. If all of this doesn't work and you've done nasal steroids and you've done leukotriene inhibitors or antagonists, you want to think about immunotherapy. What's immunotherapy? Immunotherapy is allergy shots or allergy drops under the tongue. These are sublingual or subcutaneous allergy shots, and they should be done by a physician. Should be done in the presence of a physician, unless you have stable disease and are getting stable allergy shots, at which time, as long as you have an EpiPen, you can do allergy shots at home or sublingually. And we're getting more evidence behind what we call slit therapy, which is sublingual immunotherapy, versus SCIT, which is subcutaneous immunotherapy, which is injections. What happened during last allergy season, unfortunately, is a lot of allergists closed their offices. Why? Because they didn't want to bring COVID into the office. Why? Because the symptoms of COVID are very similar to allergy symptoms. Very similar to allergy symptoms. With the availability and the ability to get more tests, more allergy patients were able to receive relief with immunotherapy. I can tell you right now, allergic rhinitis and pollen counts are associated with increased risk of major depressive disorder and with suicidality, especially the summer seasonality, and that's grass allergies. Hi, I'm that guy. I'm the grass guy. And people, when they have high grass pollen contents, have an increased suicidality. We know that, right? So allergy shots are not for everyone. It's not a, shot. Well, let me rephrase that. Vaccine, I'm pro that, but allergy shots are not for everyone. Allergy shots are not for everyone. But I'm here to tell you, treating allergies is essential to lowering risk of things like mental illness. Treating allergies is essential, perhaps, in reducing risk of COVID-19. Now, how are we going to do that, right? We're going to do it with allergy rhinitis treatment, like I told you. But we're also going to say, great, now you shafted me. Now I can't open the windows to my home because I bring in toxins that are going to kill me. Wait a second. We were supposed to open the windows to get air exchange so that way COVID wouldn't kill me. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What's a person to do? What's a person to do? Lockdowns versus pollen exposure. Indoor versus outdoor. I'm here to tell you right now, time out. Get outdoors. Get outdoors. If you have allergic rhinitis, treat yourself. You should be on the nasal steroids. If it's your season, you want to do it at least a couple weeks before the season starts, just to get you kick-started. Just to get you kick-started. For those in the Northeast, if you have tree allergies, you should already be revved up with your nasal steroids. You should be revved up with your nasal steroids. If you're in West Virginia or Virginia, man, you probably should have started at least 2 weeks ago. But any time is better than no time. That's number one. Number two, the preliminary evidence is that pollen shifts our T cell response, therefore predisposing us to COVID. But the safest space to avoid COVID is outdoors. So what can we do? Theoretically, we can do nasal saline rinses twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, especially if you're outdoors. If you're going to go outdoors, come inside and take a shower. Get the pollen out of your hair. Do a little Neomed rinse, right? No, there's no affiliate link for Neomed rinses here. Sorry, not going to happen. But you do need to think about some sort of nasal hygiene. Neti Pots, I want to tell you about Neti Pots. It's very important. With a Neti Pot, you want to make sure you boil your water or you use distilled water. There have been cases of people using water and ending up with a brain amoeba. We don't want that. So use distilled water or boil that water and get the brain amoebas out of there before you put them in your brain. Okay? What else can we do? What's a happy medium in the home? Well, the answer is simple. HEPA filters. HEPA filters. I've been saying this forever. They should be in schools, in every schoolroom in the United States. Because not only will they filter COVID-19, they will also filter pollen. They'll also filter pollen. And one of the things we wanted to do was filter pollen, right? Didn't we all want to filter pollen? Yes, we did. We wanted to make sure that the pollen didn't get in the nose, adjusting our T cell response. Adjusting our T cell response. So we all need to CTHO, chill the heck out, just like we're chilling out about variants. This is not a coffee is good, coffee is bad situation. Pollen is bad. Great for trees, great for plants, great for us because they make oxygen, but bad for us because they lead to inflammation in the body. They lead to a T cell response that is altered, with helpful T cells being downregulated. So how can we get rid of the pollen in our normal environments? One of the best ways is HEPA filters. So put a HEPA filter, put them in your home. If you can find a HEPA filter system that has in it a pre-filtration system that you can wash out with water, it extends the life of your filters. So you want to get one of those washable filters with this. This is a good way to go. There's a lot of HEPA filters. HEPA-like or HEPA-type filters, I'm here to tell you right now, have not met the standards to be called HEPA. They have not met the standards to be called HEPA. Doesn't mean they may not work like HEPA filters, but you can't be guaranteed. What happens if you have central air? Well, that's fine. Still put the HEPA filters in your rooms and get MERV 13 to 16 filters for your central air system. The difficulty during allergy season is to not forget about the treatment options for rhinitis, while also protecting for COVID-19. And the best way to do that is to have HEPA filters in your homes. Okay. Why did I make this big stink about Krispy Kreme? Why did I make the big stink about Krispy Kreme? Yes, binge eating disorder and obesity cause problems with humans. Sugar and binge eating disorder and saturated fats and binge eating disorder trigger binges. You know, The smarmy CEO of Krispy Kreme says, you just don't need to visit a donut shop. Don't come in. Don't get your donut. All right, smart guy. Listen up. Your donuts cause inflammation. Saturated fat promotes inflammation. Seed oils promote inflammation. Pollen promotes inflammation. The type of inflammation that those things create are not good inflammation, smart guy. They're not good inflammation. So stop being a jerk. Stop being a jerk. Be serious and speak frankly. The product that we sell is a sweet treat known to cause addiction and inflammation. Dude, you sound like Philip Morris. Now called Altria. Altria. What the heck is that? You're supposed to sound like you're altruistic? This is garbage. Donuts promote inflammation. Inflammation predisposes us, especially altered inflammation, predisposes us to a whole host of different diseases. That inflammation is exacerbated by seed oil, saturated fats, and pollen. Seed oil, saturated fats, and pollen. In fact, that type of inflammation is such a bad type of inflammation, that dysregulation in inflammation is such a bad type of inflammation for us, that the UK variant B.1.1.7 is hijacking the exact same system to spread in our bodies. Smart guy CEO from Krispy Kreme. I'm not even going to mention your name because it pisses me off so bad that you'd make such a cockeyed statement to say, just don't go in the donut shop. The world owes me a living. Come on, dude. Seriously? Seriously. Inflammation can be our best ally or our worst enemy. And unfortunately, in the case of seed oils, saturated fats, and pollen, it's being turned against us. The inflammation is being turned against us. With pollen, we see that the cytokines that are secreted and leaked into our central nervous system cause exacerbations in mental illness and depression. They cause exacerbations in bipolar disease. They increase risk of suicidality. That's from pollen. That's from pollen. It'd really be good to have those studies on saturated fat and Krispy Kremes. Maybe then we'll find out that Krispy Kremes are just the newest version of Marlboro cigarettes. That's right, I said it. So when those who attack me about my statement that Krispy Kreme donuts kill, and most people can't just have one, I stand by it. I stand by it. Most importantly, we need to recognize that there are limitations here. Medications to treat diabetes or high cholesterol are not perfect weapons against inflammation. They're not perfect weapons. And to get inflammation just right in our body, we need the right amount of vitamin D, we need the right amount of good fats, and we need to recognize that we're going to be fighting seasonality, things like pollen that trigger the wrong type of inflammation. I will go over this again and again and again. My Krispy Kreme stance is not about donut freedom. It's about sugar, obesity, and saturated fat. The combination that has led to such a massively high mortality rate in our obese patients that get COVID. The system that's set up of dysregulated inflammation is such an effective imbroglio. It is such an effective milieu of dysregulation that B.1.1.7, the UK variant, is using the same mechanism to downregulate inflammation in the body. So we have to be serious here. We have to be serious. Like Krispy Kreme and the CEO of Krispy Kreme, that joker, pollen It's not just a nuisance. It's a threat. That's right, pollen is a threat. The key takeaways here are the following things. Pollen dysregulates inflammation. Pollen increases our risk of mental illness, suicidality, depression, summer seasonal affective disorder, and preliminary evidence indicates that pollen dysregulates our immune system, leading to make us more susceptible to COVID-19. How do we treat it? Well, we have to treat the allergic rhinitis. Treat allergic rhinitis and distinguish it between COVID and a runny nose. That's why a respiratory pathogen panel is the right way to go. And you can squeal about the cost all you want. It's the right treatment. And if we're going to let insurance companies dictate whether we get chemo for cancer or whether we can be protected from COVID-19 or not, it's a sad state in the nation, especially the federal government not willing to step in here. I'm going to give you some simple tips. Tip number 1, skip the Krispy Kremes. Tip number 2, get outside and wash the pollen off of you when you come back inside. When you're inside, use HEPA filtration to eliminate pollen from the air as you open the windows for your spring cleaning. Spring clean, open the windows, crank your HEPA filters on. If you have central air and a central system, get yourself some MERV 13 filters. Proper filtration and proper fit is key. It is key, and it can assist you in preventing the unwanted effects of pollen. What are the unwanted effects of pollen? I just told you. Pollen makes you crazy. For those that suffer from mental illness, it can lead to horrible exacerbations. For those of us who do not have atopy or do not have allergic rhinitis, pollen is still a problem. It sets you up to have one arm tied behind your back in your T cell response against COVID-19. That's it. That's it. Nothing crazy more to say about it. I've got nothing more crazy to say about our lovely friend pollen here. I honestly, I don't have a lot to say about pollen. That's about all I got to say about that. I'm glad I'm back. I am glad I'm back. And I am not a cat. I'm not a cat, Judge. I'm not a cat. I'm live, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Not going anywhere. So I want to talk just for a couple of brief minutes here so you guys can understand what's going on here. I wanted to talk probably an extra 2 more minutes, right? We get to 30 minutes on Murphy's Medical 30 minutes, right? It didn't sound right. Murphy's Medical 33 minutes, 35 minutes. I want to talk just briefly for a couple of seconds about an update of what's going on today's date, March 30th, 2021. A year and a month into the COVID-19 pandemic. That's 13 months, right? My oldest kid, that's her favorite number, 13. Not mine. Anyways, here's where we're at. The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, it appears they may have some protection against the New York City variant. I still am a big proponent of flooding the zone with J&J. President Biden and the rest of the government has now opened up vaccination for everyone, flood the zone. We've got hundreds of millions of doses coming through April and May. Yet in our medical practice, we don't have any vaccines at all. Large distribution centers appear to be the key for high volume vaccine administration, which I think is a reasonable one. But then we have to deal with the vaccine hesitancy, which I believe the key way to deal with vaccine hesitancy is to get your primary care physicians involved, get your pediatricians involved. We're studying vaccines in kids. I think probably going back to school next year, they're going to require it. They're going to require it. So I hope the FDA is ready to issue full authorization for these vaccines to beat back vaccine hesitancy. Vaccine passports are coming. My stance on it is simple. The technology is not ready. The privacy is not ready. There are a lot of nuances to this. It's going to be worked out over the summer, especially as we get ready for New York Yankees baseball. Let's go Yankees. Let's go Yankees. I'm very happy to help my favorite Yankees out, help my favorite announcers out as we battle through this COVID-19 pandemic. That's right. You saw the intro. You know I'm a Yankees fan. That's right. And I sure hope Aaron Judge does A-OK, and we can get to mashing some home runs in the Bronx. This is Dr. Murphy Medical Associates, encouraging all of you to be good to each other, to do your best, to think the best of each other, not the worst, to stick together through this and not try and poison each other. Can we do that? Can we do a little bit of niceness and pay it forward? I think it'd go a long way to helping our bodies. Remember, take care of our bodies, feed them right, exercise, get sun. And if you got to go into that pollen battlefield, rinse your nose out. That's right, rinse your nose out. Take a shower when you come inside. Take care of your bodies. Because remember, our bodies are made to be well. You're made to be well. Stay great, stay safe, be good to each other, mask up, take care of each other. All right? Be brave and quick-witted. Quick-witted is the key. We're going to get through this together. Get rid of that pollen. That stuff's no good for you. All right. Take it easy. Dr. Murphy signing off. It's Murphy's Medical Minute. You can find us at coronatestct.com or Murphy Medical Associates. Have a great day, guys. April's here.